there's a million ways to make $1 million, okay? We've talked to leaders who are 8-figure earners who still cold call. And we're like, wow, that is admirable and impressive. We didn't want to be doing that for the next decade or 5 decades from now.
So Jessica, obviously you've been one of the best when it's come to building a business on social media. You and your husband are no longer actively building, but back in the day, you were one of the first ones that I had ever heard that focused on social media, building a team, got to 5 figures a month, using a lot of like cold market strategies and things that honestly would still work today. But I know you and your husband coach some of the top leaders, some of the top income earners, and do a lot of speaking and consulting for big companies. And I know, especially with 2020, every company at this point is like, teach us your ways, show us how to market on social. So maybe you could talk about, really what you see when it comes to specifically not just prospecting, but I'm talking straight up recruiting. If you want to make a full-time income in network marketing, your mindset should be to always be recruiting, always starting new teams. And that's how I always like to look at it. If I'm recruiting a new person, it's not just recruiting one person, it's starting a new team. So what would be your mindset when it comes to specifically recruiting and building a team, leveraging social media in 2020, Jessica?
Here's the cool thing about 2020 is, as angry as a lot of people are, they are more open to making extra money, right? And we've seen that proven in the numbers. People are feeling out of control and they want something that they can control. They want to feel like, okay, I'm actually taking an action, doing something towards a specific goal that is going to set me up for the future. So the first place I would start is just looking for people that have that kind of language or have that kind of mindset going forward. How do you find those people? What I did in my business, and yes, it still works today. In fact, it's a lot easier today because you have so many more tools than I had when I first started. I mean, basically it was just Messenger and that was it. I didn't have groups. I didn't have any of that. But what I would do is I would really sit down and think of, okay, what is the low-hanging fruit for me in my business? What do I mean by that? So many of us when we first start out, are trying to be a John, or we're trying to be a Nadia, or we're trying to be a Marina, or whoever. And so we do what we do, we emulate what they do, which is great, but we forget that there are people that are low-hanging fruit right now that share our personality, they share our goals, they share maybe our background, they share something with us that instantly gives us a way to talk with them. And so I would sit down and say, okay, what's the low-hanging fruit in my business? Who is that person? What kind of pages would they like? What kind of groups would they be in? What kind of hashtags would they follow? That's a huge one, is looking at who's following these hashtags and getting your content and stuff out there with those same hashtags, and reaching out to those specific people every single day, having a goal in mind, just like John said, of staying consistent. How many people per day am I going to reach out to, and going from there? And what's interesting is people from all different incomes in network marketing come to us for coaching. And even with the 7-figure earners, the number one question we ask them when they say their business is at a plateau or it's struggling, the first question we ask them is, how many people are you talking to every single day? At first, they're like, well, I know that, I know that. And then they kind of sit and think about it and they're like, oh, right. I kind of got into management mode, or I kind of forgot about that part because it seems so basic. We as human beings tend to overcomplicate anything. Simple action taken every day over time will create results. So you have to be, as Ray would say, you have to be addicted to those activities. And that's all I did, was reaching out to a certain number of people that I felt, to me, was a low-hanging fruit group.
I love that. Now, my question to you is, what would you recommend? Because I get this all the time. I know you get this all the time. What do you say to these people, right? Whether it's a friend or someone you're just connecting with that you literally have never spoke with.
I usually like to teach in formulas, because that way you can kind of input your own personality. So I've been using my first message formula in my trainings for years, and the people have seen massive results from that, myself included, right? But it's just, I always like to include their first name in the message. Okay, that's a must, whether it's an audio or a video or a text message, their first name has to be in there. Or some kind of enticing first sentence to grab their attention. Okay, why you're reaching out to them. Okay, so why specifically are they an interest to you to have this conversation? And some kind of connection point or excitement, and then a question at the end to keep the conversation going. And so, for example, it might be, hey, John, your post kind of shocked me, right? Or something like that, so that they're like, wait a minute, should I read this? Your post kind of shocked me. And then I say, I'll be honest, when I saw it, I thought, wow, this person is just like me. And so there's that why you're messaging them, right? And then going into, hey, I don't know if you'd be open to this, but I'm working on a side project. If it doesn't interfere with what you're currently doing, then maybe you'd like to take a look, kind of thing. So the interesting thing is, I've been teaching this for years, and I think that women sometimes are different than men in the way that they communicate. Not sometimes, they always are, but it's a difference in communication. And so Ray was like, he reaches out to somebody in a certain area and he'll say, hey, I noticed that you were in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm actually expanding my business out there, and would you be open to making some extra money if it wouldn't interfere with what you're currently doing, type of thing. And the interesting thing about the way that he's so direct, and I more like to frame it with some chit chat, or like, hey, you have a Maltese, I have a Maltese too, and then kind of getting them where I want them to go, is it's the same formula. So if you're more of a direct person, be more direct. If you want to frame it a little more, just don't forget to get to the asking questions of, hey, do you want to look at my business or not?
I'm like, you just have to test it out. Stop overthinking it, right? Reach out to 20 people with a very direct approach. Reach out to 20 people with, you're still going to pop the question, but you're going to do a little bit of a connection first, right? You're going to have a little back and forth dialogue. And I always say, listen, the reason I'm reaching out to you is because, right? Just cut to the chase and just pop the question. Now, here's the thing. I don't think it's bad. Like, some people will say, well, should we have a little bit of back and forth, or, should we, wait for them to respond? First of all, in my opinion, you should always wait for them to respond, because I don't want to send like the whole pitch, if you will, before we've ever had that first conversation. But the thing is, it's not bad if it goes back and forth, like you send a message, they respond later in the day, and then the next morning you respond. It's a little back and forth for maybe a day or two or three. It's not a bad thing if it's dragged out over a day or two. But if it's like and I love when Ray talks about this, it's hilarious, right? He's like, they're trying to cook you cookies, right? Bake cookies and send you gifts, and like, just waiting. They're just going to like build this relationship over the course of 5 or 10 years, and just hoping that one day.
Knit your dog a sweater. Yeah.
Right. Knit your dog a sweater. One day they're going to be like, by the way, what do you do? Right? Like, that's crazy. But I think sometimes we get so hung up on the awkwardness of just popping the question that, if you feel it's that awkward, first of all, you're probably bringing awkward energy to the conversation, which is part of your problem. But sometimes I just say, I know this is a little bit out of left field. I know this is totally like random, but I got to ask you. And then you just ask the question. So if you need to position it, or like you said, use audio. I love using audio, because I feel like when I can just talk the way I talk, it's so much more effective when they hear the tonality and enthusiasm in my voice. And you know what? I'm not addicted to the result. You said it, addicted to the activity of like, I've got to pop the question 5 times a day. And if it's 9:30 at night and I've only popped the question 3 times, I ain't going to bed until I pop it 2 more times. Now, someone might say, well, what if I send them a message and they don't respond? Okay, then just go ahead and pop the question in the first audio clip, but you got to do your 5 for the day, or your 2 or your 10, whatever your goal is. Because the thing is, if you get obsessed with the activity, you're going to get the result. What would you tell someone that's wanting to get to a point of having those conversations consistently, right? They're wanting to be proactive. And you said, get into some like-minded groups, start popping the question, have a little bit of a connection, a little bit of relatability. What would you tell someone that wants to hit it hard, Like they want to go fast. Do you have like a method or an amount of people they should be talking to? I would love to hear your 2 cents on that.
Well, and what you just said is dead on. I mean, stop over analyzing it. Like, who cares? You're probably never going to meet this person in person unless they join your business. So it's like, just have fun with it. And I started this at 21 and I got cursed out at 21 years old. Like if someone's willing to curse me out at 21 years old, just be like, hey, like, how you doing? Then just realize that there's just a-holes in the world everywhere. And so if you do it the right way, like you said, and you're not making it awkward and you call it out when it gets awkward, like one of my favorite strategies is if you've had an awkward conversation, go back to that person and apologize and say, hey, I didn't mean to make this awkward. I'm sorry if I did. I was still learning. I hope that we can still be Facebook friends, girl power, or whatever. And just have that conversation with them. Or if somebody hasn't responded to you in forever, you're like, was it something I said? Just have fun with it. Don't worry about it so much. So I love that you brought that up. So if you want to hit it hard, I mean, what I did for 6 months with 0 signups is I did 30 to 50 people every single day. Now, Facebook has definitely put some restrictions on us since then for how many people in a day you can reach out to and stuff. But there's so many ways around that. And you can use different platforms. You can use Instagram, LinkedIn, just get out those numbers. It is not hard to do. People always use I'm going to get blocked as an excuse. It's really not hard to do if you just get a little more creative and spread it across platforms. Totally. So I would say if you want to go hard, 30 to 50 a day. Like seriously, no joke. If you are in the trenches and you want to make your first 10,000 a month or whatever, 30 to 50 people a day. The reason I didn't recruit someone for 6 months was a tiny little tweak, just a small little tweak. And I'll tell you what that was. I was not asking the question. Just like you said, those first 6 months, I felt like I was working my behind off, and but I was not really asking the question. I was the girl who, if you actually got on the phone with me, I would spend an hour talking about your kids and your dog and, your next college tuition that you have to pay for, and never ask the question, always waiting for them to ask me. And once I switched that and went back to all these people I had talked to and either apologized or said, hey, I'm just throwing it out of left field, like you just said, or whatever, and asked the question, magically, all of a sudden, I started getting signups. Right. So it's really not a complicated business, but it's not an easy business either, because if it was, then everybody would be millionaires, just like everything in the world. Right. So it's worth it.
And the crazy thing too is you reach out to that many people, even if everyone said no. Number one, you just got your skin is a lot thicker, right? You just got through a ton of people. And now you've become this routine machine. It becomes a habit. We're creatures of habit. So now it's almost like, for me, it's almost weird if I don't do a video. It's almost weird if I'm not ATMing someone, if I'm not prospecting people, right? It's weird if I'm not following up. Like there's things that now it's just a part of my daily regimen. And I think the thing is, even if they all said no, let's say you talk to, 100, 200, 500 people this week, this month, whatever, and they all say no, that's just no, not yet. No, not now. Some of these closing strategies that you've implemented over the years and that you've taught a lot of your clients, you guys have your Top Earner Academy, you have your Rank Makers community, again, you guys do a lot of speaking for companies, you guys have written books about this stuff. I mean, I don't know trainers that know this conversation better when it comes to the follow-up and the closing on social media, right? Because again, it's not just the prospecting, we can do a lot of the follow-up and closing through social as well. So what would you say when it comes to that closing conversation or some of those best practices?
Well, I would say, I think people, they get scared of the close because they think it has to be aggressive. And actually it's very non-aggressive. And if you've done it and set it up right, it's very natural. And it comes just after you've had a conversation. And my favorite line that I share with people is just, hey, this is what I used all the time. Based on what you've shared with me, you may want to take a look at what I do. I could send you some information if you'd like. If not, no big deal. And then I would set up a time with them. I would try and get a specific time that they could watch the information. And our video at the time was an hour long. People's time spans have definitely, or attention spans have definitely shortened since that time. So your video may be 5 minutes, right? So that makes it easier for you. But I would give specific times. So I'd say, hey, I have a 3:15 or a 5 o'clock. And A, that makes me seem busy. B, people want to do business with busy people. And C, it makes it seem like, okay, they're going to watch it tomorrow versus 3 weeks from now. If you just say like, hey, when could you watch it? They will literally pick, next month on a Tuesday, and then you'll never hear from them again. The simple verbiage of switching to either giving them a time or how soon do you think you could take a look at the information instead of when, completely changed the way that I was closing people. And I went from being ghosted to actually having appointments and getting them on the phone. Now, the next question comes to, and nowadays people text, they do, video messaging, they do Zooms. I got people on the phone. I still highly recommend it, especially for business building. If somebody's serious, they want to know that you are too. And so they're going to want to talk to you. And so my simple way of getting someone on the phone was saying, hey, what's your phone number? Here's mine. I'll go ahead and text you the information, or I'll send you the information. And here's mine, so you know who's calling or who's texting you. That way, they feel their guard is down. They feel like, oh, she gave me her number. And then I ask them for theirs so I can send them the information. Very simple. Another way you can do that is just ask them, say, hey, I always give them my phone number first. And then I'll say, what's yours? So I know who's calling me if you have questions. So if they want to call me with questions, which they never will, I always called them. But if, I just put that out there so that if they decided, oh, she's just asking for my phone number, so if I decide to call her with questions, she'll know how to answer who it is and to answer the phone. That was my way of kind of sneakily getting their number. And some people you could just ask and they'll blatantly give it to you. So again, people make this awkward, and just call it out if it gets awkward. If it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to give you my phone number or whatever, be like, oh, I promise, like, I'm not going to do something crazy with it. I'm not going to call you 10 times a day. I just want to make sure that I know I can send you the information properly and that we can have a conversation. Like, just be straight up with people and they'll so appreciate it.
And a lot of times what I'll do too, and I love that you mentioned this, Jessica, I'll tell people, go ahead and text message me. Like, here's my number, text message me. Because it's like a sorting tool, right? If you don't text message me, I'm not chasing you. But if you do text message me, like, I know you're that much more serious because you took the time to take my number, shoot me a message. And I think the other thing too is, and this is something I do with people that I hate to admit this, but if I feel like this person's almost ready, they're like a red apple, scale of 1 to 10, they're like 8.6. Like they're already almost there. I'll say, listen, we can hop on a call or we can just talk right here on Messenger. And a lot of times they're like, yeah, that's cool. We'll just talk on Messenger. Like, they don't even care about doing a phone call. But I think it's a good idea, especially for those of you that are struggling with recruiting. Jessica said she still recommends it. I still recommend it. You're talking to someone about partnering with you. Mm-hmm. This isn't just a customer that's just buying from you. They're looking to start a business. They're looking at you as a mentor, as a business partner. If you're not willing to hop on a call with them, what kind of business partner are you really going to be? They need to know that you've got their back because you're getting their hopes up, right? And people are afraid. You know what? The reason people don't want to get their hopes up, right? And the reason they have their guard up, because they've been let down before. It seems too good to be true. But if they know you got their back, and by the way, this isn't just for recruiting. This is for after you recruit them also. Like, I'm following up with people after I recruit them just as much as I was before, because to me, it's like, if I get you in and you quit, well, that's not exciting. That sucks. Right? Like, I want you to get results. I want you to be working with me years from now. And it's just a paradigm shift. And I said this in the beginning, I'm starting a new team. This isn't just recruiting somebody. When Jessica would recruit someone, she didn't go, okay, next, got my fast start bonus. She was now locked in with them and working with them. But then that's a whole other thing too, because this is why you got to have a system. And this is just the icing on the cake. And it's so crucial that you master every aspect. The marketing, the prospecting, the follow-up, the close, launching new people, like mastering every aspect of this. And the beauty is, it ain't rocket science. I dropped out of community college, y'all, and I've made millions and millions of dollars. And I heard a speaker one time say, would you rather say I am educated or I is millionaire? Jessica, just to wrap up, what do you think the importance is for an individual that's serious, that's committed? They don't just want a side income. This ain't a side hustle. They want a significant income. They want to build a business of significance. How important do you think it is to build a personal brand?
That's everything these days. And I don't say this lightly because there's so many people that hear the word brand and they think something completely different than what we're talking about. But if you don't have a personal brand, you're working way too hard. So we always thought that we were going to get our numbers out every single day, but in the background, we were building up a brand similar to what you guys have done. We were building up a brand to make it easier one day. I didn't mean tomorrow. I didn't mean a month from now or 6 months from now, but make it easier one day, maybe 5 to 10 years from now, where people would be coming to us and we wouldn't have to go out and get the business as hard every day. I mean, we've talked to leaders that are 8-figure earners. Okay, so you can build. There's a million ways to make $1 million. Okay, we've talked to leaders who are 8-figure earners who still cold call, and we're like, wow, that is admirable and impressive. We didn't want to be doing that for the next decade or 5 decades from now. And here's the distinction I want to make, though. You don't need a personal brand to recruit. You absolutely don't need one. I came onto social media at 21 with no business experience. Nobody knew my name. I was this like little girl. I looked like I was 12, and people still joined me for, this product that financial services people were buying. So you don't need a personal brand to recruit. It shouldn't stop you from starting. I want to make that distinction very clear. However, your long-term goal in this day and age should absolutely be to have some type of community that knows you, likes you, and trusts you. So wherever you go, whatever you do, and whatever your goals are, you have that ability to reach out to that community and say, hey, this is what we're doing, and you have pretty much a solid income for life. It's just the value that you provide to somebody, that's what they're going to give back to you. So if you can do that with thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, then that's how successful you're going to be in life. That's just the way that we see it. So again, you don't need one to see success, but it does long-term make your life a lot easier.